and welcome to Famhealth, a platform where we inform, inspire, and educate you on everything health. In our journey to highlight issues relating to mental and emotional well being, today we discuss a problem that commonly affects children of senior classes who are finding themselves at the crossroads of making one of the most important choices of their lives. Graduating from school and preparing to go to a university is a challenging time. Let's hear what some 12th graders go through, especially this year in the midst of a health crisis. In current times, being accepted into the university of your choice requires you to perform well in each and every area. This builds up a lot of emotional turmoil amongst the students. How have all of you been coping with this stress? We'll start with Ishita.
So it's been a really tough time, especially with managing everything when it comes to either academics or extracurriculars. And I feel like what really helped me throughout all this is organizing it. So I dedicate my hours. I need to know what I'm doing next, and I need to create timetables so that I can get through my courses and I can get through everything. And just keep a more positive attitude towards everything, because I mean, someone is doing something that you aren't, and you obviously develop that thing that, oh, that person might get into a better college because they have a better resume than I do. So instead of feeling that way, I just try to do whatever I do to my fullest potential rather than just like adding different stuff to it. So that's what I feel like did for me.
Thank you, Ishita. Divyani, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So I think, like Ishata said, that making lists and organizing something is very important because, at such a crucial time, you'll find yourself, having to do so many things, and it's, everything is equally as important as the others. So, you don't want to leave anything behind, and, that whole constant guilt trip you will do to yourself if, leaving anything behind. So I think that's something that gets easier if you can make a list for yourself or schedule yourself. I think that just gets really easier. I think there are other small, I think stress busters are something that are very like that's something that I realized that have been very important for me because I'm like a very energetic person. So just sitting on the desk and working, sometimes I have like it's really like a lot of built up energy, so I get frustrated and then I can't work properly. So for me, exercising, that's really important. If I don't, I get very irritated, or I get in like a really bad mood. I get more stressed. I feel more competitive. But I think once I've exercised, you feel calmer. You're able to work. You're able to focus on things properly. That's something that I've noticed. And if someone's like a person that has like a lot of energy and is really hyper as a person with a lot of energy, I think exercising is like a really good stress buster. Another thing, because I think I'm very hyper, is I think showering. Like I just sometimes I've discovered like really recently is that whenever I shower, I think it's just like it's such a refreshing concept because you're taking that time to calm yourself down in the bathroom, and just like having a shower. I think that's like really helped me personally because sometimes I come back home from some place or the other, and I'm not able to walk. But I think once I shower, I feel so refreshed, and you're more focused, and I think that really helps me work. So I think sometimes when you've had like a lazy day or two and you just can't get yourself to work, I think showering is like my go-to. And other than you should always I think you can give some time to your hobbies as well. That's really like that's also another thing that's helped me with like coping up with the emotional turmoil. Like I personally really enjoy cooking, so I probably like make a dinner for myself. Doesn't take too much time, but just like small things you do. You don't have to dedicate a lot of your time to it because you want to dedicate your time to the important things like your college, your studies. But like these small stress busters, they'll just help you in the long run because they'll keep you focused for the big things.
Thank you, Divyani. I think those are all stress busters that all of us follow through with, and it's very helpful. Nikita?
Yeah, so I think, like Divyani Nishita said, that being organized is very important. But I think for me, I've always been more of a very calm person. I don't really like exercising a lot. So I think I like to listen to songs more. I like to just wind down. I like to, go for walks in the evening and just get some fresh air. So that's been very helpful. Even talking to people has been very helpful. Like I like to talk to my friends a lot, my family, and just like listening to how like they're dealing with everything, how they deal with stress, because like my family went through this like entire like college phase and everything, and listening to their stories has been very inspiring too. And something I've discovered very recently is just like taking time away from social media is actually very important to deal with stress. Like I try not to like go on Instagram so much. I try to dedicate more of my time to things that are productive. So I like that stress that is in me, it gets like thoda sa like come. So yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Are there any specific triggers that you have, something that you read or something that you come across that triggers that sort of stress within you?
So I think recently something that really triggered me is like sometimes I think one gets in so much of a routine that even if it gets messed up a little bit, one gets like really, really triggered. So I recently went out with like my friends, and when I came back home, I literally got like this whole big anxiety and panic attack because I'd been in like such a routine for the past 2 months because all of us have been in like lockdown because of the second wave, and I was in such a routine of doing my work for my internship or my classes or my tuitions, and then suddenly school was there too, so it was just so much of a change in my routine that I don't think I could mentally handle it, and I wasn't like coping up with it. So I just got like an anxiety attack wherein I just didn't work for a day. So when I came back home, I felt like my world was falling apart, and that I'd like completely messed up my routine, but I hadn't. So I think sometimes it's so much about just like talking to another person that's going through the same thing with you. I spoke to my friends, I explained them the situation, I explained my parents the situation, and they just reminded me. I think reassurance was very important in that time, to know that it's fine to take a break. You're not like a machine that can work all the time. So yeah, obviously you can't take as many breaks as you could, but I think sometimes one gets into such a routine that just a little bit of mess up really triggers that anxiety and that panic in you, because things aren't going the way you want it to. So I think sometimes reassurance is really important. So you should know the people that you think can get reassurance. You should talk to them about it. You should tell them that I need this kind of reassurance. So that always works.
Nikita?
Yeah, so I think something that triggers me, and it's like I said that talking to people helps, but sometimes at the same time, when you talk to people and you hear what they're doing or hear how they've prepared for college or whatever in their lives, it can get very overwhelming at times. And usually when you're doing like talking to people, you're in a public place. So I think at that time I get very like tense and I just start to get this anxiety attack. But at the same time I find it very inspiring that they're doing something, so I should also do something. So it just helps me get into my own place, like I have to do this, because not just because someone else is doing this, because I have to. It's like something that's important to me and like my personal growth too, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Ishita?
So I'm the kind of person who's like a procrastinator with like a violent fear of failure. And those two things just never go together. I mean, they just cannot. And sometimes that's why I just feel like that even a small obstacle, like even missing one of my tuition classes or just not like doing good in one of my tests, it just puts me back in such a way that I just feel like that is the point where I know that it's gonna go down from now. And I mean, no one else can really do anything about it. It's just that I constantly remind myself that everyone faces problems and everyone faces obstacles. And that's why when you're winning and when you're losing. That's how you know that you're growing as a person. And I just need to remind myself, it's like there's nothing anyone else can do. I just need to take time for myself and I need to remind myself that these setbacks aren't important. They're like a part of the process. They're a part of school, through college, through life, and just need to go on and go ahead. I mean, even if I miss a few classes, it doesn't matter. I'll manage. I'll do it. It's just I need to know everything. I need to like macro manage my life, and then only I can work. I mean, it's very, I don't know.
All right, thank you. So another question that I have for everyone is that today there's so much pressure from everywhere to get into a highly reputed college, a college with a very well-known name. And in most scenarios, the pressure comes from, your family or your people or the people around you. So what has your family been like? What has their attitude towards you been like? Have their expectations from you either motivated you or discouraged you? And how have you managed all of this and kept your stress and your management in check? I think we'll start off with Divyani.
So, my family, Touchwood, they've been very supportive to me. I'm the only child, so I think it's kind of overwhelming at times, all the support and motivation, because I think by the end of the day they just want good for me, but because I think I'm the only one, it's just so much of focus just on me that it can get overwhelming at times. And sometimes I find myself in situations wherein I'm really stressed because of all the expectations I have, and I think that I'm not meeting those expectations. And when that happens, I feel this, like like a lot of pressure and everything. So even though they're trying to mainly motivate me, I think it can get overwhelming at times. I think my dad is pretty liberal when it comes to me doing what I want to do. He just wants me to be like a successful person and grow as a person. But I think still, I think my mom sometimes, she doesn't see, like she doesn't want me to go into, like, I'm pursuing fashion design, so she doesn't want me to do that. She says that arts is not such a good line, etc., etc. So I think sometimes when you don't receive that, like, support from your parents, it can be a little discouraging at times, because I mean, they're your parents at the end of the day, so you want their total support. And even though if they say that yeah, we support you, but deep inside that that's not what they exactly want for you, because they'll keep giving you those hints wherein they're hinting to you can still do something else, you can still do something else. So I think that sometimes to me gets very discouraging. But I think there's only one way out of it. You can't ignore it. You can't think that they'll understand on their own, because they're humans like us. They just want what's best for their child. So I think how I've dealt with it is that, to make sure my parents know my views, to make sure they know how I'm feeling, try to make them understand. It's not like they will always understand. There's always going to be this generation and age barrier between a parent and a child. But I think it's just mainly about getting them to understand that how you feel. And I think even if you don't have their full support, they'll still, like be there for you, encourage you, because something is better than nothing. You don't want your parents to be absolutely against what you're doing, because that's just worse. So I think, yeah, making sure that they know how you feel is very important.
Thank you, Divyani. Nikita?
I think my parents have also been very supportive. They've never really told me that, you have to do this field, you should do this, you shouldn't do this. But at the same time, I do think that there's like a lot of unsaid pressure, just like because I'm the older child, so they've always been focused on me more, like growing up. So I think there's all the unsaid pressure, and that in some ways that's more frustrating, because it's just like, if you have expectations from me, please tell me so I don't like overthink and like get very overwhelmed and weird about this. But I think my dad has always been very like not very, but like discouraging. He's always been like, you're not going to do this, you're not going to get into this college. But I think at the same time, he just wants what's best. He doesn't want me to have too many expectations and then get disappointed later. So I think that's kind of frustrating, but at the same time, I know that they want the best for me at the end of the day. So they think that their opinions don't matter to us. Like as teenagers, we tend to act very unbothered with stuff. But I think that their opinions matter the most to us, more than anyone else's, because it's like, they're our parents at the end of the day. So yeah.
Absolutely. Ishita?
So I have a joint family, and like Nikita said, there's a sense of an unsaid pressure there. I mean, there is a sense of competing with your own brothers and sisters, because my elder brothers and sisters, some has written a book, some is doing this course, some has like a full scholarship right at this college, and sometimes there's just the competition and that hostility between the relatives. And I feel like that has really put on an extra set of pressure for me, because I'm in this like constant need of being not exactly being better than them, but at least giving them a competition. That because you always get to listen to those tanes, as we like to say, that oh, your brother went there, or your sister went there. I mean, what are you expecting? Are you planning to apply to the same college? Will you get like an alumni benefit from it or something like that? And I just feel like that my parents have really supported me throughout that thing, because they know I feel that way, and they just constantly remind me that you don't need to compete with them and everything. It's like a completely different field, and it's a completely different thing. You do what you want. So I feel like their reassurance is really important, like Devyani said, and their support is really the one thing that really keeps you going.
So, thank you. Like all of us are talking about how there's this constant need to sort of prove yourself to everybody around you. There, along with that comes in a lot of fears within you. You're constantly worried about so many things. You're scared of failure. So, do you have any particular fears, and how are you dealing with these fears? How do you make sure that it's not affecting your daily routine or your mental health? So, we'll start with Nikita.
Yeah, so as you said, I do have, like, everyone has a fear of failure, I think. But the thing with me, I think it's always been more of a fear of disappointing someone, not a fear of failure. It's like anyone for that matter. My parents, my friends, just constantly saying, having to prove that I'm like, I want to keep your expectations. I don't want to disappoint you. And I think somewhere along that entire like line, I forgot that I have to like satisfy myself too, and I have to prove myself that I can like do this, and not just like work or live for someone else's expectations, but for my own too. So I think to deal with that, I try to do as much as I can, like productively, like for college or whatever. Try not to watch Netflix a lot or like be on social media a lot. So I think that's, for me, that's been like the best way to actually like deal with it, is to actually do the work and like not procrastinate.
Ishita?
So I, as Nikita said, there is that constant fear of disappointment. And for me, I seriously feel like that sometimes the fear comes along with a fear of being left behind. Like your friends going to these colleges, these fancy schools and everything, and you're left behind in a college that no one really knows about. I mean, it's every college is good, but some are just like a little over the edge than others, and that just sometimes sets you back a lot. I feel like what I have done throughout this to cope with this is just like make sure that there is, in those 24 hours of a day, there is at least 1 hour that I dedicate to myself. So what I try to do is I try to gym and I try to focus on my fitness, because whatever happens, I know that I need to take care of myself too. And I am in this like constant habit of stress eating, especially when it comes to exams and everything. And I really feel like that controlling it and working on myself along with it really gives me an extra set of motivation, that I can actually like an extra set of energy boost, that I can divert to all this and not just like just keep the thoughts at bay and the positive stuff with me.
Divyani?
Yeah, so like Irshada said, that I think exercise, again, not just as a stress buster, but like as like a confidence, like you feel like you've achieved something in the day, even though you just exercised, but there's this feeling of achievement you get. Things, small things, like even making your bed. I think the fear of failure is something that is so extreme at times, you don't realize that it's coming to you. It's just so subtle in its ways, but it just creeps in, because you don't even realize that you're going on that path wherein you're not as productive as you maybe were. And I think a good way of this is like having like doing the small things, like maybe even keeping your room organized, making your bed, brushing your teeth in the morning, like making sure you do those little things for yourself, like Ishita said. That's like really important, because you're achieving something. So it's like I think it's like this effect, right? Like you start with the small things which lead up to the big things. And I think that's something that I've always been told by my elders, and I've always tried is, whenever I do that and I'm in a healthy routine wherein I'm doing things for myself, I'm able to conquer other productive things that I need for my school or college better. And I think the grass is always green on the other side. When you think of failure or disappointment, you'll always feel like someone who's doing something similar, or anyone for that matter, is doing more than you are. You'll always, I think it's about acceptance when it comes to that, because you have to accept that it's fine. Your battle is against yourself. It's not against somebody else, because everyone has their own, their own situations. No one is like you. No two people are the similar. So no two people need to take the same, route. So I think accepting that makes it easier for you to accept that, failures are important and they're a part of you growing. So I think acceptance is very important.
Thank you. I think what Ishita had mentioned about, you're constantly competing with, you're worried that you're being left behind. I just like to delve into that a little deeper. And my next question is, since most of your friends are from the same batch, all of us are 12th graders, some of you might even be targeting the same universities. So this competition amongst one another, has this added to any of the stress you feel? And how are you ensuring that your relationships and your friendships aren't being negatively impacted by this constant sense of competition that is there? So I think Divyani, would you like to start?
Yeah, so I think that there's no way that you can avoid this competition. Okay, like it's kind of stupid if you do, because you're just walking into, like, you're walking blind into a wall. It's always good to know what you're competing against, right? Because it's like I'm preparing for getting 100, but the other person is preparing to get 200, right? So their goal is already way higher than yours. So I think ignoring that competition, or like blindsiding that competition, isn't good. You should always be in touch with them. Not like be in touch with them in the sense that try to know what they're doing and copy it, but in the sense that you get an idea of what people who have similar goals as you are doing, so that you can. I think it's also a good way of self evaluation in the sense that you don't need to, like, course yourself and make yourself feel bad that you aren't doing exactly what they're doing. But at the same time, it's always good, because I think sometimes you're actually not doing as much as you could do, and that's probably because you didn't know that there are so many things that you could do. So it's just more like an eye opener for you. And like I said, acceptance, right? You need to accept that you need to be your original self. You need to know how you want to do what you want to do, and you shouldn't get like carried away. So I think that's very important. And the other thing I feel is like, I personally know 4 or 5 people that are doing the same thing as me, and I keep talking to them. And I think I would really get pressurized in the start, because art colleges, like good art colleges, like Ivy Leagues, they don't take more than 2 to 3 people from a school, and it's usually one person when it's a good art college. It's like a very similar way in the Ivy League. So I think something that I realized is that worrying about the fact of who will get into is just going to make you more astray from focusing on what you need to do and doing what you should be doing. So I think, rather than, it's always good to keep yourself updated, because they might tell you things that you are actually not doing. So that's good, like I said. But at the same time, to remember to be original, and the fact that you need to like do your own bit, because sometimes we start doing what others are doing, and that's not original, right? And the colleges want to see how you are as a person. So it's very easy to like get mixed up and all that. But I think you need to keep reminding yourself that you are you, and you should do what you feel like. I think that's very important. But at the same time, knowing your competition is important too.
Thank you, Divyani. Nikita?
Yeah, so as Vianney said, it's stupid to like ignore the fact that other people are going to be focusing on the same colleges that you're focusing on. So like I think that I do like to like know what other people are doing, but at the same time it does get very overwhelming at some point. But you have to realize that like there's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be someone who's doing better, who has more knowledge than you, and accepting that is like a very important part, because as the Vianney said, colleges like especially nowadays they want to focus more on what makes you, like why are you different than other applicants. So I think like focusing on that, you have to like do what you're passionate about, because at the end of the day that's what the colleges are going to like primarily look at. So like doing something like copying something that someone else is doing is not going to benefit you in any way. you can, like, the least you can do is just do what you're doing it and make sure that you're doing that the best you can do it. And because that's, at the end of the day, that's the only thing that's in your control. So you can't like exactly say that, this other person's doing this, so I have to do this too. But whatever you're doing, just, you have to make sure that you're doing it as well as you can, and just accepting that there's going to be someone better. So yeah.
Thank you, Nikita. Ishita, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so I don't really know what these guys are talking about, because from what I know in my school, there's no one literally applying for the same course in the same universities. But there are some people who are applying for the same course in different universities. I just feel like talking to them has really brought out like a healthy sense of competition in me, which has actually given me more ideas about what I can do. So obviously, yeah, it's given me it. I have obviously gone through like anxiety and everything because of it, because I just realize how there are some things that they're doing that I'm not doing, that how their resumes are better than me, like I previously mentioned too. But I feel like that it's also given me a lot of good ideas about what I can do. So colleges mostly want us to be unique in some way. And I feel like these ideas have really allowed me to bring out that side, to do something that's more personalized, because at the end of the day it's not about what you're doing, it's about what you're learning from it. It's about the experience of it all, because that's what the college really wants to know. They don't want to know what, like, a checklist or stuff you have done. They want to know how you've actually grown as a person from it. So I feel like, yes, it might become a bit hostile, but the best thing to do about it is not to dive too much or too less. Just be in a moderate amount. It needs to be your conversations about that stuff with that person needs to be in a moderate amount, so you don't get too competitive also, and you just don't know anything about it too and blindsided.
I think everything that's being said right now is so relatable. I think all of us are going through that, so we can all understand what everyone's talking about. And keeping that in mind, I just have one last question for all of you. And since we're all very good friends and we keep talking to each other, and I personally do this, whenever I'm getting stressed about my entire task list or something else, I tend to call one of you up, or I tend to call my friends up, and just sort of try to talk to them and calm myself down. So my question is, if somebody calls you up in a state of stress or anxiety or panic, how do you sort of tell them, or how do you sort of help them calm down? What would you advise to them? I think Ishita can start us off.
So, if it's like when someone calls me about something related to this, the first thing that I try to do is just take their mind off academics entirely. So just start talking about some show that I'm watching, some music, some, I don't know, gossip about our friends, anything other than what they're stressed about. So it actually just like helps them take their mind of the entire thing. It just allows them to calm down at first, and then you can talk to them about the whole thing. So you can, once they've calmed down, once I know they're comfortable and everything, then I go on to ask them that what happened, why do you feel this way, and is there anything I can help you with it and everything. And just, I feel like that, just kind of comforting them, and that sense of just, I don't know, I'm not sure, but just sometimes reassurance plays a really important role in everything, and just like reassuring them that no, everyone, even I faced that, even this happened to me, because sharing your experience is a really important thing, because it really allows you to understand others point of view and others way of thinking too. You know how you're not the only person going through this, and that's really important to know. So that reassurance sometimes really helps, and I feel like that's the way to go about it.
Thank you, Ishita. Nikita?
Yeah, so as I just said, like taking someone's mind off set things are like very important. Like talking about stuff that you did that day, or like just like general stuff, just like that's been happening in your life. And the same thing, I like when, if I'm calling someone like that, I like to like just vent out, and I just like to rant and just talk about like everything that's bothering me at that point. And I think I would encourage the person to do the same, just like, just talk to me, just tell me whatever is bothering you. So getting that load off their mind is important, because when you tell someone what you're like completely going through and everything, it just makes you think more clearly, and just sometimes saying it out loud to someone else is very important. So just just getting that off your mind just brings a lot of clarity, and just because it's like, this is why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. And then after that, you get a bit more like, okay, like calm down, like, okay, I can do this, like, that I'm capable and everything. And so, like Ishita said, like reassurance is very important, as saying that, I know you can do this, and I know you're an amazing person, and stuff like that.
Thank you, Nikita. Divyani?
Yeah, so I think all the same things like reassurance. I personally look for reassurance when I'm trying to call somebody, and I think at the same time taking their mind off is very important, because, and rather than directly hitting what's causing them that anxiety or panic, I think that just makes them more built up on what they're already like dealing with. So I think making sure that you're giving them that break, because when you're talking to a person, you're flowing through your thoughts, get carried away in other things. I think that's very important. At the same time, sometimes like when I personally call my friends, even if they don't have like some substantial advice to give me, but just because I've ranted out to them, that just really helps, right? Like for example, if Ria or Nikita or Ishita call me, and sometimes I genuinely do not have like a substantial advice to give, because I probably haven't gone through that situation, but just because they've heard them, they said it out aloud. So I think even if you don't have a substantial advice to give them, but just like just generally talking to them, even though you can't give them something, so just don't shut them out, let them speak, even if you can't help them in a very materialistic or substantial way. Just letting them let that out is very important, because for that person to take that confidence to come to you is also very hard, right? Because they're trusting you with their issues. And I think another thing is that sometimes we tend to just say stuff like it ha ho jayega, it's okay. That's also a very big part. But at the same time, sometimes you know telling people to do, like, it's like telling somebody that okay, you're sad, just don't be sad. It doesn't work like that, right? Like sometimes you can actually give out your thoughts and opinions, so just don't be shy to do that, because that sometimes a person needs a reality check. Sometimes you're overworking too much, sometimes you're underworking. So I think giving that reality check and giving like a clear blunt advice is very important, because you might just stray that person into working more than they need to or working less than they need to. So just being honest and blunt about it, even if you don't do it right away, maybe you can do it by checking up on them later or having that discussion. But I think that's really important too, because whatever you're saying, it's subconsciously going to register into the mind and they're going to act upon it. So just to make sure that what you're saying is upfront and honest, and not just something that you're saying to suit that person at the end of the day.
I think all of this has been absolutely brilliant. And, there's a lot of understanding amongst all high schoolers right now, especially with COVID-19, how it's impacted all of us. So, with that being said, I just want to thank Divyani, Ishita, and Nikita for joining us today and sharing their thoughts and views on this and giving us all a few tips on how to deal with anxiety and stress. And I hope this has been helpful for everyone out here. Thank you.
हेल्थ, फिटनेस और पोषण पर पाए बेस्ट डॉक्टर्स की राय सिर्फ famhealth.in पर, और हमारी YouTube पेज माय फैम हेल्थ पर सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें।